Hello everyone. Welcome back to Naruto Fix. Today we have another interesting what if Naruto story, which is what if Naruto and Pakura became legends feared by every village. Part 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now, without wasting any time, let's begin. The story of Pakura was supposed to end in the desert. Betrayed, surrounded, forgotten by her own village. That was the official version. But the shinobi world lied about many things. And one of those lies accidentally created monsters. It started the day Naruto Uzumaki found a corpse that refused to stay dead. The desert wind screamed across the border between the land of wind and the land of rivers. Hot, dry, endless. Naruto wiped sweat from his forehead dramatically. I officially hate missions. Beside him, Jiraiya lazily walked forward without concern. You complain every 30 seconds. That's because the desert is trying to murder me. Quote, it's sand. Exactly. Jiraiya sighed deeply. Sometimes I wonder if Minato-sama's spirit regrets things. Naruto gasped dramatically. You take that back. The older shinobi laughed quietly. But underneath the joking, their mission remained serious. Several caravans vanished near the border recently. Entire squads disappeared without bodies. No survivors. No chakra traces. Only one strange detail repeated every time. The victims looked dried out, like every drop of water vanished from their bodies instantly. Naruto frowned while walking across another sand dune. That sounds creepy. Jiraiya's expression darkened slightly. It reminds people of someone. Naruto blinked. Who? Silence followed briefly. Then softly, Pakura of the Scorch Release. The desert wind suddenly felt colder somehow. Naruto scratched his cheek awkwardly. Never heard of her. Jiraiya looked toward the distant horizon quietly. She was one of the hidden sand's strongest shinobi. Then his eyes darkened, until her own village betrayed her. Naruto frowned instantly. What? The older shinobi sighed. Years ago the sand made peace agreements with the hidden mist. Naruto blinked. Okay. Jiraiya's expression sharpened slightly. Pakura hated the mist. The wind moved harder across the dunes now. She killed too many of their shinobi during the war. Naruto slowly realized where this was going. The sand handed her over. Silence. Jiraiya nodded once. She was sent into an ambush disguised as a diplomatic mission. Quote, Naruto stopped walking entirely. Her own village sold her out. The older shinobi quietly answered. For peace. The word felt poisonous somehow. Naruto's face darkened immediately. That's messed up. Quote, Jiraiya laughed once softly. You say that a lot. Because villages keep doing messed up things. Unexpectedly, the older shinobi didn't argue. Because deep down, he agreed. Then suddenly, Naruto froze. Wait. Jiraiya looked toward him instantly. What is it? Naruto slowly turned toward a distant cliffside buried beneath drifting sand. Do you smell burning? The air shifted strangely. Hotter. Sharper. Like invisible heatwaves spreading across the desert. Jiraiya's expression changed immediately. Get down. Boom. The sand exploded upward violently. Naruto barely jumped backward before the entire dune beneath him turned black. Burned. Completely dry. A massive scorch mark spread across the desert floor. Naruto stared wide-eyed. What was that? The heat intensified instantly. Even the air itself felt dehydrated. Then, a figure slowly emerged from the swirling sandstorm ahead. Orange hair moving softly in the wind. Wrapped bandages. Cold amber eyes. And floating beside her, 3 glowing heat spheres crackling with terrifying energy. Naruto froze completely. Because the woman standing before them looked less like a person, and more like the desert itself learned how to hate. Pakura calmly observed them, then quietly spoke. You're not from the mist. Silence swallowed the dunes. Jiraiya's expression sharpened dangerously. Impossible. Pakura's eyes slowly shifted toward him. People keep saying that. Naruto pointed dramatically. You're supposed to be dead. Pakura blinked once slowly. Rude. Then, unexpectedly, the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Almost amused. Naruto immediately pointed harder. Nope. He stepped backward. Dead people don't joke. Pakura looked toward the endless desert quietly. Neither do betrayed ones. The atmosphere changed instantly. Because suddenly, Naruto realized something terrifying. This wasn't Edo Tensei. Not a zombie. Not an illusion. She was alive. Somehow. Jiraiya subtly shifted into combat stance. How did you survive Kurigakure? Quote. Pakura's expression darkened slightly. I didn't. Silence. The heat spheres around her pulsed softly. Then quietly. I died there. Naruto blinked. Okay, now I'm confused again. Pakura slowly walked closer across the burning sand. And with every step, the desert itself dried and cracked beneath her feet. The mist left my body in the desert afterward. Her amber eyes narrowed slightly. But hatred is stubborn. The air became suffocatingly hot now. Naruto could feel moisture leaving his skin unnaturally fast. Even Jiraiya looked disturbed, because scorch release wasn't normal fire. It evaporated life itself. Then softly, Pakura whispered, "The desert gave me back." Quote. Silence. Naruto stared at her blankly. That sounds super evil. Unexpectedly, Pakura laughed quietly, not loudly, not warmly, just tired. You sound disappointed. Naruto pointed again. You said the desert resurrected you. Quote. Fair. But despite everything, Naruto noticed something strange. Pakura wasn't attacking, even though she clearly could. Instead, she kept watching them carefully, like measuring something. Then suddenly, her eyes narrowed toward Naruto specifically. The heat spheres floating beside her flickered strangely. Interesting. Naruto blinked. What? Pakura stepped closer slowly, amber eyes studying him intensely now. You carry hatred. Silence. Naruto's expression shifted slightly, because hearing that from her felt uncomfortable. Pakura continued quietly, but you haven't accepted it yet. Jiraiya immediately stepped between them. That's enough. Pakura's gaze slowly lifted toward him again. You fear what he might become. The older shinobi's expression hardened instantly. Naruto frowned deeply. What's that supposed to mean? Pakura looked toward the desert horizon silently. Then softly, villages create monsters long before the monsters fight back. The wind screamed across the dunes harder. Naruto froze slightly, because somehow, those words sounded horribly familiar. Like things he already heard before. Gaara, Nagato, Kisame. Broken people created by broken systems. Pakura quietly looked toward Naruto one final time. Then calmly spoke the sentence that changed everything. When Konoha betrays you someday. The floating heat spheres glowed brighter beside her. Come find me in the desert. The desert stayed silent long after Pakura vanished into the sandstorm. Only burning heat remained behind. And standing frozen atop cracked dunes, Naruto Uzumaki stared toward the empty horizon. When Konoha betrays you someday. Come find me in the desert. Naruto groaned loudly. Why does every emotionally damaged criminal keep recruiting me? Exclamation mark quote. Beside him, Jiraiya remained unusually serious, which honestly worried Naruto more than Pakura herself. The older shinobi slowly crouched beside the scorched sand where Pakura stood moments ago. Then quietly whispered, "She really survived." Naruto blinked. You sound scared. Jiraiya looked toward the distant desert silently. Because people like Pakura aren't supposed to come back. The wind moved softly across the dunes. Then darker. She was one of the strongest killers the sand ever produced. Naruto frowned. Then why betray her? Silence followed briefly. Jiraiya finally stood slowly. Because villages fear weapons they can't fully control. Quote. The sentence hit Naruto harder than expected. Because lately, he kept hearing the same truth repeated by different broken people. Kisame, Gaara, Nagato, now Pakura. Villages creating monsters, then fearing them afterward. Naruto kicked the sand irritably. That's stupid. Jiraiya sighed softly. Welcome to politics. Naruto immediately pointed dramatically. I hate politics. You hate homework too. That's different. Unexpectedly, Jiraiya laughed quietly, but it faded quickly, because deep down, he understood something dangerous already. Pakura didn't approach Naruto randomly. She recognized something in him. Something familiar. loneliness, anger, potential hatred, and that terrified him. Then suddenly, Naruto froze again. Wait. Jiraiya immediately sharpened. What now? Naruto slowly looked toward the horizon. She left chakra marks behind. Quote. The older shinobi blinked. You can track them. Naruto frowned slightly. Kinda. Ever since training with the Nine Tails chakra, Naruto sensed emotions hidden inside chakra more clearly. And Pakura's chakra felt unforgettable, dry, burning, lonely, like endless desert heat with nobody left alive inside it. Naruto pointed toward distant canyon cliffs. She went that way. Jiraiya's expression darkened immediately. No. Naruto blinked. We're leaving. Naruto frowned harder. But what if she's hurt? The older shinobi stared at him blankly. She evaporates people. Naruto crossed his arms stubbornly. That doesn't answer my question. Quote. Silence. Jiraiya rubbed his forehead tiredly. Because Naruto always did this. No matter how dangerous someone became. Naruto looked for the pain underneath first. Then suddenly, a violent explosion echoed from the canyon direction. Boom. The desert trembled instantly. Massive heatwaves spread across the dunes. Jiraiya's expression sharpened. That wasn't Pakura. Naruto looked toward him. How do you know? Her scorch release burns differently. Quote. The older shinobi immediately leapt toward the canyon cliffs. Naruto followed instantly. Minutes later, both landed atop a massive ridge overlooking the canyon below. And froze. Because the battlefield beneath them looked horrifying. Entire sections of canyon walls had melted. Black scorch marks covered the stone. Several dead shinobi lay scattered across the battlefield completely dried out. And standing at the center, Pakura fought alone against nearly 20 hidden sand hunter nin. Naruto's eyes widened. They're trying to kill her. Jiraiya's face darkened. Again, the irony felt disgusting. The hidden sand already betrayed her once. And now, after discovering she survived, they returned to finish the job. Pakura stood motionless amid the battlefield. Heat spheres floating calmly around her. One sand jonin screamed angrily. You should have stayed dead. Pakura's amber eyes remained cold. My village already buried me years ago. Quote. The jonin formed hand signs instantly. Wind style. Too late. Whoosh. One scorch sphere touched his arm lightly. That was enough. The entire shinobi dried out instantly. Skin cracking. Body collapsing into dust before even hitting the ground. Naruto froze in horror. That's terrifying. Even Jiraiya looked disturbed. Because Pakura's power didn't merely kill. It erased moisture from living bodies instantly. A terrifying perfect assassination technique. The remaining sand shinobi stepped backward nervously. And suddenly, Naruto noticed something important. Pakura wasn't chasing them. She only attacked people who came close first. Like she wanted them to leave. One hunter nin shouted desperately. The cage ordered your elimination. Silence crushed the canyon. Pakura slowly lowered her eyes. And for the first time, Naruto saw genuine pain behind the coldness. Even now, the desert wind screamed harder through the canyon. They still fear me more than they regret betraying me. Naruto's chest tightened unexpectedly. Because deep down, he understood exactly how that felt. Then suddenly, one sand shinobi activated a massive ceiling tag hidden beneath the battlefield. Jiraiya's eyes widened instantly. Naruto move. Boom. Chains erupted across the canyon floor violently. Not ordinary ceiling chains. Suppression chains specifically designed against scorch release. Pakura reacted instantly. But too late. The chains wrapped around her arms and legs violently. The floating heat spheres destabilized immediately. Several sand shinobi rushed forward desperately. We got her. Pakura struggled silently. Then suddenly, Naruto jumped directly into the battlefield. Jiraiya's eyes widened. What are you doing? Naruto landed between Pakura and the sand shinobi instantly. Shadow clone jutsu. Poof, poof, poof. Dozens of clones exploded across the canyon. The sand shinobi froze completely. The Nine Tails kid. Naruto pointed dramatically. You guys are really bad at not betraying people. Quote. Pakura stared at him blankly. What are you doing? Naruto immediately grabbed one suppression chain. Saving you obviously. Why? Naruto blinked. What kinda question is that? The suppression chains burned his hands slightly. You're hurt. Pakura stared silently. Because honestly, nobody had said those words to her in years. Not as a weapon. Not as a missing nin. As a person. One Sand Jonin shouted furiously. She's a traitor. Quote. Naruto snapped instantly. You sold her to the mist. Silence crushed the canyon. Even the Sand Shinobi hesitated briefly. Because nobody liked saying that truth out loud. Naruto's expression darkened. And now you wanna kill her because you're ashamed she survived. The desert wind moved violently through the battlefield. Pakura quietly stared at Naruto. And deep inside, something she thought died years ago flickered painfully. Trust. Then suddenly, the lead Sand Jonin formed another hand sign. Enough talking. Massive ceiling barriers erupted across the canyon walls. Jiraiya cursed instantly from above. This was a trap. Naruto looked upward sharply. What? Too late. The entire canyon activated with glowing formulas. Pakura's expression changed immediately. Fear. Real fear. Because she recognized those seals. The same execution barriers the sand used before handing her to the mist years ago. Naruto noticed instantly. They used this on you before. Pakura's voice came out quieter than expected. Yes. The lead Jonin slowly stepped forward. This time, the suppression chains tightened violently around Pakura again. We finished the mission properly. Naruto's blue eyes slowly darkened. And for the first time, Pakura saw something dangerous inside him too. Not hatred. Fury. The kind born from seeing history repeat itself again and again. Naruto suddenly clenched the suppression chains harder. Then quietly whispered, I'm getting really tired of villages doing this. The suppression chains tightened violently around Pakura's arms. Steam hissed from her skin where the seals burned against her chakra points. And standing directly in front of her, Naruto Uzumaki slowly clenched his fists. I'm getting really tired of villages doing this. The canyon trembled slightly. Not from Pakura's scorch release. From Naruto's chakra. The lead hidden Sand Jonin immediately pointed toward him. Step away from the target. Naruto blinked. Target. He pointed toward Pakura. She's literally a person. Several Sand Shinobi activated more sealing tags nervously. The Jonin's expression hardened. She is a classified rogue weapon of the hidden sand. Naruto's face darkened instantly. There it is again. The desert wind howled harder around the canyon. Weapon. His fists tightened painfully. Everybody keeps calling people that. Jiraiya landed atop the canyon floor nearby with a heavy sigh. Naruto. The older shinobi's tone carried warning now. But Naruto barely heard him anymore. Because Pakura's expression looked too familiar. The exhaustion. The betrayal. The quiet acceptance that nobody was coming to save her. Naruto knew that look. He hated that look. The lead Sand Jonin slowly stepped forward. Konoha has no authority here. Naruto crossed his arms stubbornly. And you apparently have no morality. The Jonin's eyes sharpened dangerously. Do not interfere. Pakura suddenly spoke quietly behind Naruto. Leave. Everyone froze slightly. Naruto looked back. Pakura's amber eyes remained calm despite the chains burning into her skin. They'll kill you too. Naruto immediately pointed at her dramatically. That sounds like quitter talk. Unexpectedly, the corner of Pakura's mouth twitched slightly. Like she forgot how to react to someone this absurdly stubborn. The Sand Jonin formed another hand sign instantly. Containment Unit 3. Several shinobi slammed their palms onto the canyon walls. Boom. The entire ceiling barrier intensified violently. Massive symbols spread across the canyon floor. Jiraiya's expression changed immediately. They're amplifying the dehydration field. Naruto blinked. The what field? Too late. The air itself suddenly became dry enough to hurt. Naruto gasped slightly. His throat burned instantly. Even breathing felt difficult. Pakura's expression darkened. They're using my chakra signature against me. The lead Jonin nodded coldly. The barrier was designed after your first execution. Silence crushed the canyon. Naruto slowly turned toward him. You built an execution field specifically for her. The Jonin didn't even deny it. She survived the mist ambush unexpectedly. Then colder. We corrected our mistake. The desert suddenly felt much colder despite the heat. Because hearing people discuss murder this casually made Naruto sick. Pakura quietly looked downward. No anger. No surprise. Like part of her always expected this outcome eventually. Naruto noticed instantly. And that hurt worst of all. Because she already gave up on being saved. Then suddenly, one sand shinobi activated another seal near the canyon edge. A massive spear launcher unfolded from beneath the rocks. Naruto's eyes widened. Jiraiya immediately recognized it. Chakra piercers. Pakura's face finally changed. Fear. Real fear. Naruto looked between them quickly. Why is that the thing scaring everybody? Exclamation mark quote. Jiraiya's expression darkened heavily. They're designed to destroy chakra pathways permanently. Silence. Naruto slowly realized the horror. They weren't trying to arrest Pakura. They wanted to cripple her forever. The lead Jonin calmly lifted one hand. For the crimes of rogue shinobi Pakura. The launchers locked onto her instantly. The hidden sand carries out final judgment. Naruto snapped. No. Red chakra flickered violently around him. The canyon floor cracked beneath his feet. Several sand shinobi immediately stepped backward nervously. The Jonin's eyes narrowed slightly. The Nine Tails vessel destabilizes. Naruto pointed furiously. Stop talking like a crazy scientist. The launchers fired. Whoosh. Massive chakra spears shot toward Pakura instantly. Naruto moved without thinking. Shadow clone jutsu. Poof. 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 Hundreds of clones exploded across the canyon. Several intercepted the spears directly. Boom. Massive explosions shook the canyon walls violently. Dust and sand erupted everywhere. The suppression chains weakened slightly from the impact. Pakura stared wide-eyed. You idiot. Naruto grinned through the smoke. Yeah, probably. Then suddenly, he grabbed the burning suppression chains directly. The seals scorched his hands instantly. Pain shot through his arms. But Naruto pulled harder anyway. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Naruto don't brute force sealing formulas. Craack. One chain snapped apart violently. The sand shinobi froze. Impossible. Pakura stared silently at the broken chain dangling beside her. Nobody had ever broken those restraints before. Naruto gritted his teeth harder. Hang on. Another chain cracked. Then another. The sealing barrier around the canyon flickered dangerously. The lead Jonin immediately shouted. Kill them both. Dozens of wind-style attacks exploded across the battlefield instantly. Naruto clones rushed forward screaming recklessly. Why is every desert mission traumatic? Boom. Poof. Crash. Chaos consumed the canyon. Pakura watched Naruto fight desperately in front of her. And something inside her chest hurt strangely. Because this felt impossible. Nobody risked themselves for her anymore. Not after the betrayal. Not after the mist. Not after she became a monster whispered about in war stories. Yet this loud ridiculous blonde idiot kept protecting her anyway. Then suddenly, another chakra spear pierced through the smoke directly toward Naruto's back. Pakura's eyes widened. Move. Too late. The spear struck Naruto's shoulder violently. Craash. Naruto slammed into the canyon wall hard enough to crack stone. Naruto. The name escaped Pakura automatically. Silence followed instantly. Because she hadn't screamed someone's name in fear for years. Naruto slowly pushed himself upright coughing. Blood dripped from his shoulder. But somehow, he still grinned. Ow. Quote. The sand Jonin immediately formed another seal. Finish it. More chakra launchers unfolded across the canyon walls. Pakura's expression darkened completely now. Because suddenly, she understood. They weren't just executing her. They wanted Naruto dead too. The lead Jonin's voice became colder. Konoha interference cannot survive. Jiraiya stepped forward sharply. You're declaring war over this. The Jonin answered instantly. No witnesses means no war. The atmosphere became ice cold. Naruto slowly looked upward through blood-covered bangs. Wow. Red chakra flickered harder around him. You guys really suck. Then, something changed. The suppression seals around Pakura weakened just enough from the chaos. And the floating scorch spheres beside her pulsed violently. The sand shinobi noticed too late. Pakura slowly lifted her head. Amber eyes glowing now, not with rage, with judgment. The lead Jonin whispered in horror. Number. Whoosh. One scorch sphere escaped the weakening chains instantly. It floated silently through the battlefield. Beautiful, quiet, deadly. Then touched one chakra launcher lightly. The entire machine evaporated instantly. Not exploded. Gone. Every drop of moisture erased from the metal itself. The sand shinobi panicked immediately. She broke containment. Pakura's voice echoed quietly across the canyon. You should have left me buried. The remaining chains around her started glowing red hot. Steam erupted everywhere. Naruto stared wide-eyed. That is so cool. Even now. Pakura almost laughed hearing that. Then suddenly, the lead Jonin activated the final emergency seal hidden beneath the canyon. Jiraiya's face changed instantly. Oh no. Naruto looked toward him. What? The older shinobi's voice lowered. They're collapsing the canyon. Silence. Then, boom. The entire battlefield exploded violently. Massive canyon walls began crumbling inward from every direction. Sand and stone crashed downward like mountains collapsing. The hidden sand shinobi retreated instantly toward hidden escape tunnels. Cowards. Naruto immediately looked toward Pakura. We gotta move. Pakura stared upward silently, then quietly answered. There's no escape. Naruto blinked. What? The canyon collapse seals surrounded every exit already. Even Jiraiya's expression had darkened now. Pakura slowly looked toward Naruto again. You should have left earlier. Naruto pointed aggressively. Stop saying dramatic death things. The canyon ceiling cracked apart above them. Huge boulders rained downward. Naruto immediately formed hand signs. Shadow clone jutsu. Clones rushed upward trying to hold collapsing debris back. Poof, poof, poof. They vanished instantly under the weight. Pakura quietly watched Naruto continue fighting anyway. Still trying. Still refusing to abandon people. Even now. And suddenly, something inside her finally broke. Not hatred. The wall around it. Because she remembered something painful. Long ago. Before betrayal. Before becoming feared. Before the desert gave her back. She used to believe in protecting people too. The realization hurt more than the chains. Naruto suddenly grabbed her arm. Can you burn through the barrier? Pakura blinked slightly. Maybe. Naruto grinned instantly. That's all I needed. Jiraiya immediately pointed upward. You've got 10 seconds before the entire canyon buries us. Naruto looked toward Pakura again. Can you trust me? Quote. Silence. The desert wind screamed around them. Pakura stared at him carefully. At the blood. The stubbornness. The impossible refusal to abandon strangers. Then softly. For the first time in years. She answered honestly. I want to. Naruto smiled instantly. Cool. Then red chakra exploded around him violently. The canyon trembled. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Naruto wait. Too late. Naruto slammed both hands into the ground. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Thousands of clones erupted across the collapsing canyon instantly. Every sand shinobi froze in horror. The clones all pointed dramatically at Pakura. We're doing something stupid. Quote. Pakura blinked. What? Naruto grinned wildly. We're escaping. Then louder. And after that, his blue eyes sharpened dangerously toward the retreating sand shinobi. We're having a very serious conversation with every village that thinks betraying people is acceptable. Quote. The entire canyon collapsed around them. Mountains of stone crashed downward while thousands of Naruto Uzumaki clones flooded the battlefield screaming absolute nonsense. This is a terrible plan. That's every plan. Quote. Fair. Boom. Massive chunks of canyon wall slammed into clone formations instantly. Poof. 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 Dust storms exploded everywhere, and standing in the middle of the chaos, Pakura stared silently at Naruto. You're insane. Naruto grinned wildly while red chakra spiraled around him. Yep. Then he pointed upward dramatically. But I'm an optimistic and sane person. Another section of the canyon collapsed violently. Jiraiya dodged falling debris with a deeply tired expression. I should have retired years ago. The hidden sand shinobi desperately retreated toward escape tunnels while the collapse consumed the battlefield behind them. The lead Jonin shouted furiously. Seal the exits. Massive stone barriers slammed down across the remaining canyon openings. Naruto blinked. Rude. Pakura slowly looked upward, amber eyes narrowing carefully. The suppression chains around her arms glowed weaker now. The collapsing canyon disrupted the sealing network. Naruto noticed instantly. You can break free now, right? Silence. Then softly, yes. The floating scorch spheres beside Pakura suddenly ignited brighter. The temperature across the canyon skyrocketed instantly. Even Naruto stepped backward slightly. Whoa. Because now, for the first time, Pakura stopped holding back. The sand beneath her feet turned to black glass. The air distorted violently around her body. And the remaining suppression chains slowly began evaporating. Not melting. Drying apart molecule by molecule. The retreating sand shinobi looked back in horror. One whispered shakily, "Monster." Pakura heard him. Naruto did too. And suddenly, the blonde shinobi's expression darkened. Because he recognized that word. Too well. Pakura quietly lowered her eyes. Like hearing it no longer surprised her. That hurt Naruto more than anything else tonight. Then suddenly, the lead Jonin activated another emergency seal. Jiraiya's eyes widened instantly. Naruto move. Whoosh. Hundreds of razor-thin wind blades erupted across the canyon. Not aimed at Pakura. At Naruto. The sand shinobi realized something important. Pakura hesitated when Naruto stood nearby. So they targeted him instead. Naruto barely dodged the first wave. Several clones were shredded instantly. Poof, poof, poof. The lead Jonin shouted. Kill the Konoha boy first. Pakura froze slightly. Because suddenly, the battlefield repeated itself again. The same strategy. The same manipulation. Using lives as leverage. The exact thing that destroyed her years ago. Naruto noticed her expression immediately. And understood. They were trying to force Pakura into surrender through him. The blonde shinobi's eyes sharpened dangerously. Nope. Then, he did something incredibly stupid. Which honestly wasn't surprising anymore. Naruto sprinted directly toward the sand shinobi instead. Jiraiya blinked. What is he doing? Naruto clones screamed while charging with him. Aggressive therapy. That's not a real thing. It is today. Boom. Clone armies slammed into the sand formation violently. Chaos exploded across the battlefield again. The lead Jonin cursed sharply. He's disrupting the sealing pattern. Exactly. Naruto realized something important. The canyon trap depended on formation stability. So naturally, he attacked the stability itself. Pakura watched him tear through the battlefield recklessly. Bleeding. Exhausted. Still protecting people anyway. And deep inside, something ancient and painful cracked apart. Because nobody fought for her like this before. Not even her own village. Then suddenly, a massive boulder crashed downward directly toward Naruto from above. Too fast. Too large. Naruto looked up too late. Uh-oh. Pakura moved instantly. Whoosh. A scorched sphere shot across the canyon. The boulder evaporated midair. Not shattered. Gone. The entire battlefield froze. Including Naruto. Because Pakura had just protected him. Silence followed. Then Naruto grinned brightly. You saved me. Pakura immediately looked away slightly. Instinct. Naruto pointed dramatically. That still counts. Unexpectedly, the corner of her mouth twitched again. The lead sand Jonin saw it too. And suddenly, fear entered his expression. Because he realized something dangerous. Pakura wasn't fighting alone anymore. Then, everything changed. A violent pulse of chakra exploded across the canyon suddenly. Not Naruto's. Not Pakura's. Something else. Ancient. Massive. The entire battlefield froze instantly. Even the desert wind stopped. Jiraiya's expression darkened immediately. That chakra. Naruto frowned. Why do all terrifying things start with those words? Quote. Then, the sand beneath the canyon floor started moving. Not naturally. Like something gigantic shifted underneath it. The retreating sand shinobi panicked instantly. No. The lead Jonin staggered backward. The seal broke. Pakura's eyes widened slightly for the first time tonight. Impossible. Naruto looked around nervously. Okay. He pointed at the moving ground. I officially hate desserts even more now. Quote. CRAAAAAAAAAASH. The canyon floor exploded upward violently. A colossal mass of blackened chakra erupted from beneath the sand. Everyone froze. Because buried beneath the canyon, something had been sealed there for years. Something enormous. Something alive. Gigantic glowing eyes opened within the storm of sand and heat. Naruto stared wide-eyed. What is that? Jiraiya's face had gone pale. The scorched tomb. Silence crushed the battlefield. Pakura slowly stepped backward. No. The massive creature beneath the canyon shifted again. Ancient chains snapped apart one by one. And suddenly, Naruto realized something horrifying. The hidden sand didn't choose this canyon randomly. This was an execution site. A burial ground. A prison. Jiraiya's voice became quieter. After Pakura died, his eyes remained fixed on the rising creature. The sand buried war experiments beneath this desert. Quote. The lead Jonin shouted desperately. Reseal it immediately. Too late. Boom. The creature erupted fully from beneath the canyon. A gigantic humanoid form made entirely of burning sand and dried corpses. Heat radiated from it violently enough to crack the earth for miles. And at the center of its chest, glowing sealing formulas identical to Pakura's scorch release marks pulsed brightly. Naruto's eyes widened slowly. They used her chakra. Pakura froze completely. Because suddenly, she understood the truth. The hidden sand didn't merely betray her. They studied her corpse afterward. Copied her chakra. Experimented with scorch release itself. The giant creature roared violently. Entire sections of canyon evaporated instantly. The sand shinobi panicked completely now. We can't control it. Naruto slowly looked toward Pakura. Her expression had gone completely empty. Not rage. Not sadness. Worse. Confirmation. Because the village she once protected turned her death into a weapon too. The lead Jonin desperately reached toward her. Pakura. She didn't answer. The Jonin's voice cracked slightly. Please. Amber eyes slowly lifted toward him. And for the first time, Naruto saw genuine hatred inside them. Not wild hatred. Cold hatred. The kind created slowly over years. You betrayed me. The desert heat intensified instantly. You buried me. The floating scorch spheres behind her multiplied. 3 became 6. Then 9. The sand shinobi stepped backward in horror. And after all that, the canyon floor started turning black around her. You still feared me less than what you became. Naruto immediately realized the danger. Pakura was about to destroy everyone. Not just the sand shinobi. The entire canyon. Maybe herself too. The 9 tails stirred sharply inside Naruto's seal. She's losing control. Naruto stepped toward her instantly. Pakura. No response. The desert around her continued cracking apart. Jiraiya's expression sharpened urgently. Naruto, don't get close. Too late. Naruto walked directly into the scorching heat field anyway. His skin burned instantly. But he kept moving. Because he recognized this moment too. The exact moment broken people stopped believing they could come back. Naruto finally reached her. Then grabbed her wrist firmly. Pakura froze slightly. Naruto's voice came out quieter now. Don't let them turn you into what they called you. Silence. The heat spheres trembled violently around them. Pakura stared at him blankly. Because nobody ever said those words to her before. Not once. Naruto grinned weakly despite the burning heat around him. You're not a monster. The desert wind screamed through the collapsing canyon. The giant scorched creature roared behind them. And for one brief moment, Pakura's amber eyes trembled painfully. Like someone trying desperately to remember how to be human again. The entire canyon shook beneath the roar of the scorched tomb. Burning sand exploded into the sky while enormous waves of heat rolled across the desert hard enough to melt stone. and standing in the middle of the destruction. Naruto Uzumaki refused to let go of Pakura's wrist. "You're not a monster." The words echoed softly beneath the chaos. Pakura froze completely. Around them, 9 massive scorched spheres trembled violently in the air. One wrong movement, and the entire canyon would disappear. The hidden sand shinobi stared in horror from the collapsing cliffs. Because for the first time since Pakura returned, she looked emotionally unstable, not cold, not detached, hurting. The giant scorched tomb roared again behind them. Boom! A wave of burning chakra erupted across the battlefield. Several sand shinobi screamed while fleeing desperately. Jiraiya slammed both hands together instantly. Earth style. Mud wall. Massive barriers rose around the canyon survivors barely in time. The heat wave smashed against them violently. Craash. Even the defensive walls started drying apart. Naruto gritted his teeth. Okay, that thing is really unfair. But Pakura still didn't move. Amber eyes locked silently onto Naruto. Because his hand, holding her wrist, didn't feel afraid. No disgust. No hesitation. Just stubborn warmth. And suddenly, that hurt more than betrayal ever did. Pakura's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Why?" Naruto blinked. "Why what? Why are you still trying to save me?" The desert wind screamed around them harder. The giant creature behind them continued tearing the canyon apart. And still, Naruto answered immediately. "Because nobody saved you before." Silence. Absolute silence. Pakura's eyes widened slightly. Because the terrifying thing about Naruto was that he understood people far too quickly. He understood what betrayal did, what loneliness became, and worst of all, he still believed broken people deserved another chance afterward. The floating scorched spheres around Pakura trembled again. Then slowly, one disappeared. Naruto smiled slightly. "There we go." Pakura stared at him blankly. "You're insane." "Probably." Then louder. "But right now we've got giant angry desert monsters to deal with." The scorched tomb suddenly slammed both massive arms into the canyon floor. Boom! Entire sections of desert erupted upward violently. Ancient ceiling chains burst apart one after another. Jiraiya's face darkened heavily. It's feeding on residual scorched chakra. Naruto blinked. In normal people words, the more emotional Pakura becomes, the older shinobi looked toward the creature, the stronger that thing gets. Silence. Pakura's expression changed instantly, because suddenly, she understood the truth. The hidden sand designed the creature using her chakra. Her hatred, her pain, even now, her emotions were being used as a weapon. Naruto noticed the realization immediately. And suddenly, his expression darkened dangerously. "They turned your suffering into military research." The lead sand jonin staggered backward desperately. It wasn't supposed to awaken. Pakura slowly looked toward him. Amber eyes completely emotionless now. "You used my corpse." The jonin's silence answered enough. Naruto's fists tightened painfully. Because somehow, the shinobi world always found new ways to disgust him. The scorched tomb roared again. This time, its glowing eyes locked directly onto Pakura. Then, to everyone's horror, the giant creature spoke. "Original chakra detected." Silence crushed the canyon. Naruto pointed upward immediately. Nope. He pointed harder. Giant sand monsters should not talk. Even now, Pakura almost laughed again. Then suddenly, the creature moved. Fast. Massive burning arms slammed toward Pakura instantly. Naruto reacted without thinking. Rasengan. A swirling sphere of chakra exploded into existence in his hand. Boom! Naruto slammed the Rasengan directly into the creature's arm. The impact shook the entire canyon violently. But instead of exploding, the creature absorbed part of the chakra instantly. Naruto's eyes widened. Jiraiya cursed loudly. It absorbs chakra moisture. The creature's massive hand grabbed Naruto instantly. Craash. Naruto slammed into the canyon wall violently. Naruto. Pakura moved before thinking. Whoosh. 3 scorched spheres shot across the battlefield instantly. The giant creature's arm evaporated apart. Naruto fell free coughing hard. The scorched tomb staggered backward, roaring furiously. And suddenly, everyone froze, because the creature's damaged arm began regenerating using Pakura's scorched chakra directly. The hidden sand Jonin whispered in horror. It's synchronizing with her. Pakura slowly realized the terrifying truth. As long as she remained nearby, the creature would never fully die, because it was built from her. Naruto pushed himself upright painfully. Okay. He pointed toward the monster. That thing officially sucks. Quote. Then suddenly, the creature's glowing eyes focused entirely on Naruto now. 9. Tails. Silence. Jiraiya's expression changed immediately. No. The scorched tomb's body pulsed violently. Ancient sealing formulas spread across its burning frame. Compatible. Host. Naruto froze. What? Pakura's eyes widened instantly. It wants your chakra. The creature roared violently, then charged directly toward Naruto. The entire canyon exploded apart beneath its movement. Jiraiya immediately formed hand signs. Summoning jutsu. Boom. Gamabunta appeared atop the canyon with a furious expression. Why am I always summoned into disasters? Then he saw the giant burning monster. Actually, fair enough. The Toad King immediately swung his massive blade downward. Craash. The scorched tomb blocked the strike barehanded. Heat exploded everywhere. Even Gamabunta looked shocked. That thing's tough. Quote. Naruto slowly stood again, breathing heavily. The 9 tails growled sharply inside the seal. It wants me. Pakura looked toward Naruto carefully. Then quietly realized something horrifying. The creature wasn't random. The sand experimented using her scorched chakra because they wanted something stronger. A controllable anti-Jinchuriki weapon. And now, it found the perfect target. Naruto suddenly grinned recklessly. Well, that's unfortunate for it. Quote. Red chakra flickered around him. Pakura immediately grabbed his arm. No. Naruto blinked. What? Her amber eyes sharpened slightly. If you lose control near that thing. Silence. Naruto slowly understood. The creature could absorb tailed beast chakra too. Which meant, if Naruto unleashed the 9 tails fully, the scorched tomb might evolve into something unstoppable. The giant creature roared again. Then dozens of smaller burning humanoid figures began emerging from its body. Failed experiments. Half-formed scorched soldiers made from dried corpses and chakra residue. The battlefield became a nightmare instantly. Sand shinobi screamed while retreating desperately. One shinobi cried out, "We created this." Pakura quietly looked toward the destruction spreading through the canyon. Then softly whispered, "Number." The floating scorched spheres behind her glowed brighter. "You created something worse." Quote. Naruto looked toward her carefully. Pakura. Silence. Then, for the first time since returning from death, Pakura smiled fully. Not cold, not bitter, dangerous. The kind of smile legends probably feared. You were right. Naruto blinked. About what? Pakura slowly stepped forward toward the giant creature. Scorched chakra erupting around her like a second sun. I'm not a monster. The desert beneath her feet evaporated instantly. The scorched tomb roared violently in response. And suddenly, every remaining sand shinobi froze in terror. Because Pakura's chakra had become stronger than the creature itself. Naruto stared wide-eyed. Whoa. Even Jiraiya looked alarmed now. Pakura glanced back toward Naruto one final time. Then quietly spoke the sentence that would someday terrify every hidden village alive. If the shinobi world insists on creating monsters, the 9 scorched spheres merged into one massive burning sun above the canyon. Then maybe it's time the monsters stopped obeying. Boom. The entire desert exploded in blinding white heat. Miles away, hidden sand patrols stopped moving. Hidden leaf scouts froze atop distant cliffs. Even wandering rogue shinobi looked toward the horizon in fear. Because for one terrifying moment, the desert itself looked like it caught fire. And standing at the center of the inferno, Naruto Uzumaki and Pakura disappeared together into the burning storm, leaving behind only destruction, and a rumor that spread across every village afterward. 2 monsters had finally found each other, and the world would regret pushing them